Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World, brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Be sure to visit them on the web at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, and they'll get you started on your next Walt Disney World vacation today. And they'll help you out with any sort of cancellations or anything that might arise, and then you don't have to be the one on the phone. They are. It's amazing. It doesn't cost you a thing. Check them out, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. I am your host, Rhino Clavin, and in this week's episode, we are going to be discussing the best and worst things about Fort Wilderness Campground. And I forgot the rest of the name, but I'm going to introduce everybody else, and then I'll say it officially. So today, to have me help me have this conversation, we've got Denny Sunderly.
Hi there.
Craig Williams.
Ahoy, hoy.
And that's it. And Craig, I said your name like like you were a ghost for some reason.
Too soon to tell.
Too soon to tell. Too soon. No one's pushed. In fairness, no one. You haven't seen any of us touch him on camera, so who knows if we're just going to go straight through or he's solid at this point. But Fort Wilderness, the campgrounds and campsite, that is one of the resorts that will be opening with Walt Disney. Well, not with Walt Disney World, as part of the phases of Walt Disney World reopening starting June 22nd of this year. And we thought, what better time to talk about the things we like? It was Denny's idea to pick a resort, and I said, what about Fort Wilderness? Because personally, I love Fort Wilderness. Denny, how do you feel about Fort Wilderness?
I love Fort Wilderness too, and it is something. As a local, it's a place that we just kind of gravitate over there a lot. Actually, you can always grab a reservation at Trails End. It is a place that we've celebrated birthdays at. There's something for everyone. On the buffet, of course, we know that it is not reopening as of right now.
That's where we're at now. Craig, what's your overall feeling of Fort Wilderness?
It's one of my favorites, boss. It's got a blend of everything that you can want, I want to say, in terms of good dining options at the resort, comfortable accommodations in that technically you can choose either their accommodations or you could even bring your own or rent accommodations to bring and park there. There is obviously Fort Wilderness sometimes has some really fun resort-specific merchandise that comes and goes through the years, but when it always pops up, you feel like you're special if you can get that special Fort Wilderness merchandise. It's got a lot to love. And then one of the most important things, there's greenery around. It actually feels like you're in a nice, beautiful location for most of the suburban areas of Florida, and I know many places that I've lived. I don't like places that don't have trees. I don't like areas that feel like they've not been built up. So anytime I can disappear into a forest, into a wilderness, it takes me away. So I'm a big fan, boss.
I also Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground. I'm going to say the official name before people's heads explode out there. But I love. It's a combination of what you both said. I love that there's something like a little bit for everybody. You have your outdoor. They do the outdoor movie theater with like the benches and the little mini stadium seating and the campfires, which are also not running unfortunately when this reopens, but hopefully again in the future. The fact that you can rent bikes or do archery was a thing that happens there. Sometimes there's livestock. There's horses are livestock, right? That's the correct word. Or does a livestock refer to a pig and a cow?
I kind of think it's more cows and pigs.
Okay, there are no cows and pigs there as far as I'm aware. So just the horses. I apologize to all the horse aficionados out there that I may have offended. My specific favorite thing, if we're going to go, I'm just starting it off. Here's one of my favorite things about this place. I like the seasons there because I think Halloween in Florida, I struggle with some of the holidays here being so hot compared to where I'm from in Massachusetts. And so a lot of what can really make that kind of holiday spirit come alive is atmosphere. And Fort Wilderness has this great atmosphere for that because, like Craig said, it is in the woods essentially. And, and you get a very there's a community that exists at Fort Wilderness. You've got people that are very like, every year we're here, we pick either a campground, or every year we rent a cabin or something, and they deck out their areas. They have like lights, there'll be trick-or-treating going on for Halloween. They'll just like, and you'll get a map when you're there, and you can go around to the different like I forget what they're called, like the little neighborhoods, the little cul-de-sacs, and
the loops.
The loops, that's it, yeah. And you can go around, and it's something unlike anything I've really seen in Florida, and it's just it like that spirit that it's like right out of a movie is what it feels like to me, especially at Halloween. And they'll do pumpkin carving contests. They have a parade where everyone decorates their golf carts and pargos, and they get those all themed. And I think that's just so much fun, and it brings me so much joy. Even if you're just popping in to visit for the day, like you've taken the boat over from Magic Kingdom or one of the other resorts or something. For me, that is like all time, like that's where I put it up there. One of my favorite things. Plus, you can always go see Hocus Pocus on or around Halloween there at the Outdoor Theater. So hopefully this year is no exception. But what about you, Denny? You got a specific thing that you love about Fort Wilderness?
My specific thing is, harkening back to Trails End. It's a magnet. I love all things food. I just love food, and I love Disney, and Disney plus food. It's a good thing. And so I have my choices available to me, and the food is just so good at Trails End. And thankfully, P&J's Takeout will still be open once everything reopens at the fort on the 22nd. And so we'll still be able to get the great fried chicken and a lot of the other options that are always available, I would hope, over at the takeout side of things. But really, for me, it is the arrival at the area just around Pioneer Hall, around Hoop-de-Doo. You mentioned the watercraft, Rhino. I am right there with you. We have several times just gotten on one of the Magic Kingdom boats and just headed over to the fort. When we stayed at the Contemporary last year, we got on one of the boats and headed over to because we were meeting the family at Trails End, got on the boat. There is something about that area, and like Craig said, it's the vibe of the whole place. It's so unique, so different from anywhere else on Walt Disney World property. And I love, too, Rhino, something that you hearkened to, that you mentioned, I want to harken back to. It is the community there at Fort Wilderness. Anytime you see anything on the site about Fort Wilderness, it's got this community that surrounds it. I wrote an article on touring one of the cabins 2 months ago, and just the people that that had everything to say about, because it resonates very deeply with people. They love that place. So I love sitting outside of Trails End waiting for the dining reservation time. You're in a rocking chair, or the merchandise location that's away across the way there. Yeah. And then the marina, just the ease of which you can come and go from the resort, except for if you're parking and you got to take that internal bus. But as far as the ease for the watercraft, it's just fantastic.
What about you, Craig? You got a specific thing that you really like stands out for you that you love about Fort Wilderness, so you'd say this is the best thing about Fort Wilderness?
For me, the best thing about Fort Wilderness is, I would probably say, for me, I've never stayed in a camper or tent there. I've only stayed in the cabins. So for me, I love that style of, I have my own little place if I'm staying there in a cabin, that I am not worried about. I'm not worried about next door neighbors. Yes, you probably will have at least one on each side of you, but you're not sharing an actual wall. You have space and separation. I like that. I'm not, I just, that's one of the things I dislike about hotels so much, is especially when I will used myself as the example before. Like when you have a person in the room next to you who might be like a heavy snorer or a loud sneezer. We all know those people who anytime they sneeze, they act like
They do the
they are
scream.
about to. Yeah, like there's those people, and I can fall into those categories from time to time, and sometimes I just think like, oh man, I feel so bad for the people I share a wall with, or Rhino knows that I love sleeping with the TV on,
Sure
and
does.
sometimes you can get a little crazy with the volume if you're having a conversation and having a cocktail before going to bed, and then all of a sudden you wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and the TV is blasting super loud, and
It's just two broke girls going off. Craig is
It's what
literally
happens, and
describing
you're like-
us every time we've been to Disneyland
Yeah.
the last 2 years.
And, but you can hear that through the rooms. There's a lot of hotels on Walt Disney World property and hotels in general that just aren't soundproofed well. And that's what I love about the cabins is that I can be myself, I can be loud, I can do all of that because the only people I'm going to disrupt are the people that I'm actually sharing the cabins with. And I enjoy that privacy. I love the fact that if you have a car, you can drive your car straight up and park in your own parking space right outside of your cabin. So if you need to go off property for anything, you have that option. I mentioned the shopping as I started talking about Fort Wilderness. I like a lot of the merchandise they offer. They make sure that they have goods and provisions for if you want to cook inside your cabin because you have a full kitchen that you can do whatever you want in there. You can cook all the food you want. You can grill outside. But if you buy the overpriced stuff that they offer there, you are getting ripped off. If you have a car, if you brought a car for some reason and you have it parked right outside your place, you can say, okay, I'm hopping in the car and I'm going to go drive to Publix or any other grocery store off property and spend way less. And you don't even have to worry about like delivering food to your place and added fees that go in with that. The setup for the cabins is just so nice. And usually you can park at least one golf cart while also having a car in there too. I've seen it where you have two golf carts parked in there as well too. So that's even possible. It's just, you can have everything you want in a nice, just relaxing spot.
Yeah. I have always loved that about the cabins, like what Craig said with the, the spacing and there's just something about being able to come back and be like, this is my own little mini house for, this trip that you can kind of decompress and you can go sit out on a porch, and just enjoy the night breeze or something. And you hit the nail on the head too. If it's something where you're like, oh, you know what I really want right now is to go get this, you can go get it and just come right back and like right up to your room. It's not like, oh, I got to walk down, get the car out of the lot, then drive, then come back through security. It's this whole other experience, especially in the age of social distancing. I feel like it'll put a lot of anxiety at ease knowing that this is your space. And not only you're not sharing the same air with anyone else the entire time. So that's part of I worry about, going inside of resorts like the Polynesian or something like that. And it's all still in this, one big building or multiple buildings, but you know what I mean? And so it's nice to know that you're like, this is my safe space for now. But let's move over. Is there something that we'd consider was on the worst side of it? I'm gonna say mine because Denny kind of touched on it a little bit, and I don't love the buses. So I know that some people coming from out of town, you probably have to take the bus to get back and forth, or taking the bus to get to another park if you're not going to one on the Magic Kingdom on the monorail loop. Because if you are, you can just hop down, head on down to the marina area by the beach and by Pioneer Hall and just, hop on there and just take the boat. Literally, my stepdad just rode the boat back and forth for like 2 hours one day just because he was like, oh, this is great. I don't need to go anywhere. I'm like, all right, well, we saved money on that theme park ticket. So, but it can be so expansive. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk. I'll walk. And the sidewalks kind of go from one side to the other. And then if you do not have a map with you, I have gotten lost in there before. And it can be one of those moments where you're just like, I just want to get to where I am going. And it is like 11 at night. And why did I think it was a good idea to walk back from the movie? I've had a couple of moments like that, but you try to make the most of it and have fun with it and stuff. But that's just for me. But I'm that way with any sort of transportation. I'm sometimes impatient when it comes to that stuff. So I'm aware that I'm being needy when I say that. But what about you, Jenny?
For me, I think the thing that's kind of a bummer, and it's funny to me because I didn't know this until very recently, the recreation options aren't always talked about with Fort Wilderness. I mean, you get so much with staying at Fort Wilderness, so much more than you get at like Art of Animation. Art of Animation is fantastic if you stay there. But Fort Wilderness, I back in January got to take a tour of the Meadow pool area, the Meadow recreational area, and there is so much to do back there. There's a ginormous pool with slide plus a snack bar, which as a kid was always my favorite part of going to the pool was the snack bar. And there are tennis courts and there are playgrounds and a sandpit volleyball court. And there's also this really neat wood crafting opportunity that guests who are staying at the fort can be a part of. And you get to make this big wooden art piece that's stamped with or burned with the Fort Wilderness and Mickey and his Fort Wilderness get up, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
People just don't realize, and I didn't realize the depth of it until I was on that tour back in January for media. And so just seeing all the different, so yes, you have an opportunity to stay in any sort of accommodation that you want to, from a tent to a cabin to bringing your own, like Craig said, or you can come and go via watercraft. You just have so many options, and you have all these layered options for recreation. If you've got kids who we always talk about a non-park day, like trying to build one of those in your vacation. And listen, with this whole new park reservation system that's going to hit, we may not be able to get the parks that we want on the days that we want. So your resort, the importance of your resort being a place that you love, is just going to, I think, skyrocket. Well, here, if you stay at Fort Wilderness, you have numerous options to be able to stay at your resort and have a ton of fun and do something different, whenever you want to.
That's a really good point about getting the potential that like getting into a theme park isn't guaranteed. So you do have to be comfortable with being like, okay, well, if I have a day at the resort, am I going to feel like I wasted this trip? And I'm not saying that that Disney doesn't offer some great resorts that, people can be like, oh, sit by the pool, but I'm not a big sit by the pool person. So I do love the idea that you can like ride a bike around, because I've done that multiple times there. And, they used to do like kayaking. I don't know if they still do that. Okay.
They have canoes.
Okay. That's So there's some fun options like that. But Craig, what about you? Is there something you specifically, like when you think of Fort Wilderness, you're kind of like, oh, they put that on the lower side of things, like on the worst list?
It kind of branches off what you said about transportation, but I don't really care for its physical location in Walt Disney World. It's just that Magic Kingdom area is not my favorite, even though it's some of the best resorts. I think I prefer just the ease in getting around. Like if you're at the Epcot resort area, specifically like the yacht, beach, and boardwalk resorts, I feel like that actually is probably the most central you can be anywhere. It's not hard to get up to Magic Kingdom that way. It's obviously the Hollywood Studios and Epcot are great locations right there. Animal Kingdom's still close by, and Disney Springs isn't that far down the way. And with Fort Wilderness, like once you actually get out of the resort, then your closest thing, actually, because of where you are, your closest amenity is pretty much Disney Springs, because with Magic Kingdom, if you took a bus from there, you either have to, I can't remember which way the bus goes, if you stop at Wilderness Lodge on your way, or if it comes from Wilderness Lodge and then goes to Fort Wilderness and then back to Magic Kingdom. But like it can still be very it can still take a long way to get around. And obviously going to Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, you're talking about further distances as you go out with each one. So proximity wise, it's in a great place because there was a ton of area there when they started building Walt Disney World, and they still haven't developed everything around that area. So it works out for that. But I just don't like its location overall, and because that ends up bleeding over into the transportation, that you don't like buses and that's your option, well, get ready now, because you're going to take a bus from your cabin to get to the main depot to then take a bus to the next place that you want to go, and it gets to be a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely that can be a lot. Maybe that's what I like about that at least with Fort Wilderness, you can have that separation, like that it can exist on its own, and it's not the best one to stay at if you're going to be like theme parks all day, every day, like you should be enjoying this resort a lot more, like Denny said. But does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up in the best or the worst side? I'd like to just say really quick that we didn't talk at length about it or anything, but Hoop-de-Doo Review, I think everybody in this episode can agree that is one of our favorites on Disney property. And unfortunately, that will not be open when the resort first opens. But that is something, if you have never done it before, because I had never done it till I moved here, and I loved it. And I still like to go with people who have never had that experience before. But you get a lot of that fried chicken, and you get this awesome show. And I do think it is, for me, one of the best experiences all around that Disney World has to offer. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything? You go ahead, Denny.
One quick thing about the cabin: if you have a family or a traveling party who's coming down and you need a little extra space, kind of just what Craig was saying with having your own, and what you were saying, Rhino, with in the time of social distancing, just having your own dedicated space. If you've got kids and they need their own space, there is that possibility in one of those cabins where you might not have one in one of the regular Disney resorts on property, where you've got just one room for all four of you. Yeah. You have options. You have an actual door to a bedroom you can close. Yeah. If Bobby Sue needs a timeout or a nap or needs to go to bed because it's time for the end of the day to come, then you can put the kids down and then still come out front, watch TV, make a snack, popcorn, whatever. So you just have more options than you might have in a standard resort room.
I definitely do love the fact that you have a space for yourself that isn't the bathroom, that you can close the door and be like, I just need a few minutes, to just decompress and then, go on with life or whatever. And it could be for no reason other than you just want to set up something fun for the kids to have some time in the living room, like pull down the Murphy bed or, the sofa bed, whatever it is in the cabins now. And there's just...
Yeah, it's a sofa bed now.
Okay, and they can hang out and have fun, and that's and they just have their own little space, and sometimes kids love that. They just I know when I was graduating, we rented a cabin because my mom loves them and had never stayed in one. She had come down with a camper. She had said she always wanted to stay in the cabin, so we rented the cabin, and it was like my brother and his son, and then my sister, my sister's son also came with my mother, and it was great because the kids loved the living room was like their little campground, their own little personal camp space. So it's fun, but. Well, there you have it. Those are our feelings on what are the best and worst that Fort Wilderness has to offer guests. If we missed something and you feel like it should be on either the best or the worst list, please let us know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. And thank you everyone out there for listening and watching. Thank you, both of you, having this conversation with me. And remember that if you are planning that trip to Walt Disney World, check out dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Like I said in the beginning of the show, it won't cost you a thing. They'll help you out with any sort of any issues issues that arise, and then they can deal with that. You don't have to. So check them out, and that'll do it for this episode. We'll see you next time with another episode of the best and worst of Walt Disney World. Bye, everyone.